Hi, this is Mathew Knowles, and you're watching Who Mag TV. I was born in Gaston, Alabama in 1952. I enjoy writing a lot. I teach at Texas Southern University. I founded Music World Entertainment, which is a management company as well as a record label, and I have three. I have a country label, a gospel label, as well as a pop and R&B label. The inspiration behind writing Racism from the Eyes of a Child was several. One thing is that who we are is really based on our childhood, and we're shaped based on our childhood. So I wanted to go back in the past and understand my family heritage. And I went researched as far back as to my great-great-grandfather. The second thing is that I wrote this book in hopes that it would start dialogue among people of different races, creeds, colors. And that's what I'm beginning to see. This book takes you through my journey in Gaston, Alabama, being one of the first to integrate all the school systems there. Even in college at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. So I shaped the book so that you can walk my journey, and I end the book talking about what's happening in terms of racism, sexism, colorism, what's happening in today. Well, the same approach. My style, I've formed this my second book, and my style is to have others guest in the book. I have my relatives, and one of the students that I integrated desegregated school, Litchfield Junior High, Barbara Kostarfin, she's in the book as well, telling her story, and so that's my style. I love that. A ton of research. I love the research. Both books. As a college professor, one of the things I teach is critical thinking. So I approach every book from that. DNA of Achievers is talking about the traits that successful people have. Racism, obviously, is talking about racism. Well, the difficult part about writing the book was which book was I going to put out first, because I had both of these books in my head. Now I understand that when an artist says that they have a song in their head. But I thought I'd be strategic. This book is Racism from the Eyes of a Child. My next book is talking about the emancipation of slaves through music. So that kind of ties together. The next book is Destiny's Child, the Untold Story. The difficulty was just timing, and I took my time to write this book, took my time to research. The next books will come out rather quickly. It won't be as large of a gap. There was almost a 2-year gap between these two books. In the book, actually, with a visit to Gaston, Alabama. And it's very painful still. Those images are still in my head of all of the brutality, the anger, the hatred that existed when I was growing up in Gaston, Alabama. I've been spit on, I've been beaten, I've been electric prodded. I've been made to feel less than. A lot of negativity. The sadness is, even in my high school years, I was one of the top basketball players in the state, and black folks in Gaston began to call us Oreos after all the hardships we had faced to get equality and hope for black folks. They turned their backs on us and began to call us Oreos, and that was hurtful. So those are some really negative experiences that I had in Gaston. I've learned in my heart forgiveness, and I've gone to therapy based on some of that trauma that I felt as a child. Racism is more covert today, certainly not in your face like it was when I was growing up. Again, the way that we fix it is to begin to have more and more dialogue. And we have to hold some people accountable for some of their acts of racism that's happening. And I think it's a combination of those things. And we have a great young generation that's growing up that I hope embrace social courage, the same social courage that the kids in Parkland, Florida, speaking out, taking a step up. That's what we need. We need more of our younger generations to really make an impact on racism, on sexism, on colorism. Folks that are uncomfortable, with gays. We've got to think. We got to end that. Well, when I got in the music industry back in the '90s, mid '90s, it was very common to have a black music division, or sometimes they called it urban, and it was segregated, extremely segregated. I had some artists, some bands that were white. I had two, and their budgets were greater. Their signing advance was larger. It was more emphasis on their projects than those artists in the black music department. I approached it that I wanted everyone to work on a Destiny's Child or a Beyonce project, not just one division. I've seen, and I had my students at Texas Southern University do a research at pop radio. Even today, colorism exists, and colorism is discrimination based on one shade of color, and we can see that at radio today. Especially, let me be very specific, pop radio, where those black women of lighter complexion are who's getting played, and that's a fact. That's not just coming out of nowhere. We have statistics on that. It was more therapeutic. Again, I talk about and I share, and especially to men, especially black men, we have the stigma in our community that going to therapy is tabooed, and I wanted to be vulnerable, and I wanted to let the reader know I've spent many years in therapy for the trauma that existed, and I had in me from all the things that are happening in Alabama. So for me, it was a very therapeutic way of letting my emotions come out with my pen. Well, I think we some of the solutions is that we started at the elementary preschool level. A lot of racism has been taught generationally. I was just looking at a special on Martin Luther King for his 50th death anniversary of his assassination, and I was shocked and surprised when I just looked at the white men and women, their faces of anger. God, it was just disgusting to see that anger and hate in their face. And they had kids that showed and displayed that same kind of anger and hate. And a lot of those people are walking around today, and they have kids that they've given that same type of hate and anger. And so we have to start deep with our youth, because as a child, again, we internalize stuff. And so we've got to start at that level, I think. Well, I believe in audience equals sales. And so my strategy has been TV more so than print. I've been on the Wendy Williams show. I've been on the largest morning show in the UK. I've been on several morning shows here in the States, and will continue. So it's the same strategy selling a book as selling a record. I enjoy teaching. I'm not teaching this semester at Texas Southern. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of promotions. I'm finishing up my next book. But I missed the classroom. I did a guest lecture about 3 weeks ago, and I really see how much I miss it. At Texas Southern, we have a degree program called ERM, Entertainment Recording Management. I teach artist management. I teach intro to the recording industry. And I've started online e-learning courses, and you can go to the knowlesinstitute.com, and you can see those courses, and you can register for one. Emancipation, um, the Emancipation of Slaves Through Music is the title. And my class, my students, I had a real small class, juniors and seniors, and they are co-authors. They were assigned, that was their assignment. They had to do research. So this simply tells the story of, it starts in Africa, the instruments that were created in Africa, a lot, guitar, flute, harp, obviously guitar, the drums, and it talks about the journey on slave ships that took years to get here. Although they were Africans, they didn't speak the same language. They were in different tribes, so music was one of the way that they communicated. And it talks about how music was used to, when you're a slave, you have a long day, and how music, especially gospel music, was used to just help them through the day, and how music also was used to help them escape. They would communicate through the songs. And then it talks about post-slavery, what's happened, not post-slavery, but pre-slavery, how we use music now. So it kind of tells the story, going from starting in Africa. Well, there's been several different groups that made up Destiny's Child. Started when Beyonce and Kelly were really young. I think Beyonce might have been 12. Kelly was 13. And that group was called Girls Time. And then the next group, that Daryl Simmons, still partnered with Babyface in L.A., writing partners, a production deal with him, and they became the Dolls, and they were signed to Elektra Records and got dropped. After that, they were called Cliche, and after that, they were called Something Fresh, and after that, they were called Destiny, and then we had to change the name because it was a girl gospel group in Mississippi named Destiny, and then I came up with the name Destiny's Child. The book is chaptered by the names and what was going on during the names of the group. And it's an untold story. This is the real deal. This is not anybody with hype and agenda and fabrication. I have several guests, which is my style. Everyone from the choreographer, the whole period of Destiny's Child, their entertainment attorney, several people that really knew them and knew what was going on at the time. Well, I just signed an interesting artist. He's Nigerian. He's a violinist, and his name is Damola. Really excited about that. Not only is he a violinist, he's also a recording artist. He's a singer. Again, this whole, we call it that whole African beats that's coming to America, and we call it Afro pop is the term that we're giving it. I have a young male rapper who's 19. He's white. His name is Louis B. And I'm excited about Louis B. He's quirky as hell, but man, can he flow. And then we have Blush, and we might experiment some with Blush. We have a reality show that we're shopping right now with Blush. I think we found a home for it. Excited about that. Going through boxes and boxes of content. And so you'll see next year or so some docu-series, or you'll see something on the networks. So that's what we're working on. I'll be teaching. I'll be writing more. And, that's what I enjoy doing. So that's what you get in a life of Mathew Knowles.